Okay, so the first thing we're going to put on are the LEDs, and you'll notice the LED is up here, LED 1, LED 2. With the LED, there's a long and a short. The prong is long and short. The long is the positive, and that's indicated with the square, and the short is the negative, and that's indicated with the circle. So we need to make sure we put it in the right way or the circuit won't work. So we're going to put the long in the square and the short in the circle. If I can get that in there, like that. And then we're going to push them in tight, like that, push against it tight, and then just bend those prongs out, like that. And then the red, the long is in the square and the short is in the circle. And put some pressure on it, and then bend those out. Okay, and now I'm going to clip that into my little thing there. And I'm going to put a little bit of flux paste on here. That's just going to help the solder to bond. A little flux paste on each of those connections, just a small amount. You don't want a big glob or anything. And now I'm going to take my solder, and I want to make sure that the iron is at 700. It's real hot. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the soldering iron on the contact and put a little bit of solder on there until it solders. Yep. And then I'm going to do the other contact. There, it's a small bit. And then 3 and 4. All right. And then we want to take a look at that solder connection, and we want to make sure that it's not, that it's not bridging, so that there is a gap between the 4 connections. There's no solder that bridges the 2, and it should feel pretty snug, which it does. So then the last step is I'm going to just take these little clips, and I'm just going to clip off the extra wire. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is my solder connection for the LEDs. So now we're going to do the resistors. The resistors are R1, R3, R2, and R4. There are 4 resistors. 2 of them are purple, and 2 of them are coded red, right? So purple and red. The red resistors are going to go on the inside, and the purple resistors are going to go on the outside. And that's really important that we get those right, or the circuit will not work correctly. So I'm going to put the purple outside on first. So there is no positive or negative to these. So the first thing I'm going to do is just put a bend in that purple resistor and another one there. So it's a nice kind of like that. And I'm going to fish that into purple, which is on the outside. There's no positive or negative for this, so it can go in right like that. There it goes. Push it down and go ahead and bend those out. And I'll put the other purple on. So I'm going to bend it there and there. And purple goes on the outside. Purple on the outside. Push those through. Put some pressure on it and bend those down and out. And then the red, same thing. Bend these. Red goes on the inside. Fish those through. Very small little hole. And one more. 1, 2. Fish that through. Again, there's no positive or negative. It can go in either direction. Okay. Bend those out. Like this. Put it onto my iron. And same thing, we're going to make a little flux paste on each one. Just a little bit of flux. Not a lot. That helps the solder to bind to the contact on our circuit board. Probably could do it without the flux, but I'm told it helps. Okay, here goes. Let's see if I can get this soldering to not bridge. Here we go. So, one. There's one. That's a nice solder joint. And there's two. And three. That wasn't great. That's not my best one. And four. And then you're probably gonna have more steady hands than me. Five. Let go. And six. And seven. And eight. Okay. And now let's just kind of see if everything's nice and tight. Everything feels like there's a tight solder joint on there. And looks like I've not bridged anything, so there's a gap in between every contact. So then we'll just again clean up these little tails here. Don't let them get in your eye. The tails also can't touch or you'll short circuit. 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. 8. Okay, so now we've soldered on our resistors. Yay. All right, now we're going to put these capacitors on. The capacitor looks like an LED, but it's not, but it does have a long and a short. And just like the LEDs, the long is the positive and it's going to go in the square, and the short is the negative and it goes in the circle. So long in the square, short in the circle. So we'll push that in, push it all the way down so we get a nice tight fit. Bend the tails out, and then long goes in the square and short goes in the circle. Long on top. And double check, yep. Bend those tails out. And let's clip it in and see how it goes with soldering. I'm going to try this without the flux and let's see how well that goes. I think it should be fine. Here's one. Actually, I think you don't really need the flux now that I try it without that. There's 2. There's 3. And 4. Give them a little wiggle, make sure that they're nice and solid. They are. Check for bridging. No bridging, looks good. Clip off your extra tails. 2. Can't see what I'm doing. 3 and 4. Make sure that nothing's touching. Everything's separated. Looks good. Capacitors are all set. Okay, so now we're going to put on the capacitors. This is a capacitor. You'll notice in the capacitor that it's rounded on the bottom and it's flat on the top. And on the circuit board, it shows you that there's a rounded shape on the bottom and it's flat shape on the top. So this has to go on in the same direction. There's 3 little wires and they fit into the 3 holes there. So we'll put them in there. It fits just right, and let's double check. I'll take it out here. We'll double check that it's round is down and the flat is up, which it is. So we'll go ahead and just bend those out of the way like that. And then same thing for the other one. Capacitor. Round goes down, flat goes up. Get in there. Such tiny little things. There it goes. All right, round is down, flat is up. Let's bend those wires out. And let's see if we can solder those contacts. They're pretty close together. So this one's a little of a tight area to work with. So make sure you don't bridge. I'm gonna again do with this without the flux, and it's actually working really well. 1, 2, and 3. There's one of them. That looks really good. Move that one out of the way. 1, 2, and whoo. And 3. Okay. Let's give that a little test. Everything seems tight. Go ahead and cut off all the tails here. 1, here, 2, oh boy. Okay, and that looks pretty good. I do worry about that one. I feel like I might have missed a little solder there. So if it doesn't work, I might go back and resolder that, but I think let's give it a shot first. All right, let's just again double check. It's a round. Round goes down, flat on the top. I think we're mounted on those. Looks good. All right, now we're gonna put on this little switch. It's got 3 prongs, and it's gonna fit into these 3 tiny little holes there. These upper ones here are from an old switch that they must have used in a previous version of this circuit board, but now they've changed it to these 3. Because it's really small little pins, we're not gonna bend them, they'll probably break. So we're gonna use a little piece of tape just to kind of hold it in place. So I'm gonna set it in there, and it doesn't really matter which direction the switch goes. And then I'm gonna tape it so it doesn't fall out when I flip it over. All right, so now I can flip it over and do the soldering, and the switch won't fall out. All right, let's do it. Again, same thing, these are really close together, so we have to be careful about not bridging. Let me flatten that so it doesn't drip anywhere. Okay, here it goes. Number 1. There we go. There's number 1 and number 2. And you'll know if it's good, it's going to kind of make like a little volcano sort of solder around that pin. And that's kind of what we're looking for. A little volcano shape. And let's see if we got it. So if you look at those solder joints, maybe from the side, you see there's like a little volcano of solder around them. And that looks pretty snug. So we'll just clip off the tails here. 1, 2, and 3. And there is our soldered switch. We can take the tape off and just see if it feels nice and snug. It does. Feeling good about this. Okay, so now we're going to try to get our battery connector on here. So we have a red and a black. Red is negative. Red is positive. Black is negative. So we're gonna push this in from the back. So we have this hole here is the one we want to fish them through, and we're going to fish both of the wires through there and bring them up, and then we're going to do the black in the negative and the red in the positive. This is going to be hard to film because my hands are going all over the place, but we need it to be like that. So I'm going to try to pull these wires a little bit tight, and then maybe I'll take a piece of tape and sort of tape those wires and hold them down just enough that I can flip this over and see the contacts poking through. And I think I do. I see little wires poking through there. So I'm I'm good to go. Put it onto my solder, and I don't want to touch the wire to the solder. I'll melt the wire, so I'm gonna just stay away from those red and black wires. And I'll solder that contact there. There's one. And then I'll solder that contact there. And there's two. Get on there. There it goes. Okay. That looks like a pretty good connection. And then I can take this out and remove my tape and just kind of pull those wires a little bit tighter like that. And we should have our soldered connection. Okay, so now the moment of truth. Did our soldering work? Did we make any mistakes? We're gonna find out. So we'll take our battery here and we'll connect it to our thing, and then cross your fingers, flip the switch. Look at that. The blinking light circuit worked. All of our solder joints are correct. Nothing was bridged. It's not the prettiest soldering in the world, but it's effective and it worked. And so I'm happy with my result.